Let's do it. So I got Jimmy Esparza with us today, and I'm super pumped to have Jimmy on. Jimmy has been featured in Forbes. We were just chatting a little bit before. He was at SolarCon. He's doing big things in the solar industry. The name of his company is Renewable Power USA. You run that whole organization.
Yes, Renewable Power USA.
So
That's us.
Yeah, and solar the last probably like 18 months to 24 months seems like it's getting real popular. A lot of people are out there looking to get into the solar game because they want to make a lot of money. However, you've been in the game for quite some time now, and that's why I wanted to have you on here, because that was definitely an unconventional way to start building wealth and building a brand and helping other people see what you can do in the solar industry. So how did you find out about solar? Because up until recently, most people, don't know anything about it.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on your podcast, man. I really appreciate it, Joshua. I know you reach out and it's like, check out some of the content, some of the stuff that you have going on, and we're excited to be here. And yeah, to answer your question, I started doing door to door. I was actually living at my parents' house in the beginning, and somebody came and knocked my door and just pitched the product, right? And it was like almost a decade ago when solar wasn't like too popular. Like it was like nobody really knew about solar. But the one thing that we did know as a customer was like, hey, there's high bills. We lived in Arizona. Yuma, Arizona is the hottest city on earth, literally, which is funny. And he came in and he just knocked. It was a good friend of us. He actually even worked with us. He's one of our managers here, and he just told us about the opportunity to go solar. And then little by little he started talking about like, hey man, like seems like you got some skills in sales, and I think you'll be a good fit to be part of the team. And I was like, well, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like I never heard about this. Sounds a little sketchy. And that's how it all started. A little bit about how it started.
So what did that look like? Like going door to door in the beginning? Like, because I've knocked doors before, and I could literally have a piece of paper with a person's name on it and be like, hey, like you sent this in, and people just slam the door in your face. So like 10 years ago, talking about solar, people were like, how are people responding to that?
Yeah, so it was a challenge. It was something that was really new. So it was you really had to capture the customer attention and really sit and explain them the process of a solar system, right? So it's like, with the simplest way that I will talk to the customer is like, hey, have you guys do you guys know the calculators that has like a little solar, right? Which happens to be, I have a calculator here right next to me. It has a little solar next to it. So I was like, it's a similar concept. The only difference is that now you could actually power your home. So, there was definitely a lot of education, a lot of pushback from the customers, because obviously every time there's a change or there's something new or people don't understand it, there's tons of pushback. So we definitely had to work harder. There was not a lot of systems that we have now. Like back in the day, we as sales reps had to actually design the system. We have to set the appointment. We had to close the appointment. We had to do all the follow up. We had to do a lot of the operation, and it was definitely pretty new. So we got to do a little bit of everything, as a sales rep back in the day with Solar City.
Was there like a particular event that stands out in your mind of like when you were knocking on doors and it was just like in that moment you're like, this is a strange situation I'm in right now?
Absolutely. So going into door-to-door sales in solar, like it was like my first door-to-door experience. So in the beginning, I was like, man, like I don't want to do door-to-door, right? Like, people shame for me. I remember having a lunch with one of my friends, and I was like, hey, dude, I think I'm gonna join this. I'm gonna join solar, and I'm already in it. I'm already like a 5 days in the training. And then one of my really good friends like, dude, like you shouldn't be doing that. Like seems like that's a fraud. Like I don't think like people could really actually make that money, or that people are really gonna save that money. And so there was a lot of negativity even from. I will talk to my at the moment my wife was my girlfriend, and we will talk about it. She's like, no, I mean, if you feel like it's something good, go ahead and do it. So, she was always really supportive. But then comments from even other people will come and say, will come into our conversation, and they will say like, no, I heard a lot of bad experience from it. And so it was definitely like a struggle, getting to like having confidence as far as a product. But I remember this one particular situation when I was door knocking, 120 degrees, right? It's Arizona. It's one of the hottest cities on literally on earth. I think one of there's one in the Middle East that is pretty similar as far as like heat and temperature. And I was knocking and I knocked like I remember 50 doors, and I was just going door, no answer. Or people were like, my pitch was not even, I didn't even really understand what I was pitching myself, right? So it was a little, it was like extremely complicated. It's like, dude, I'm just trying to save you some money, and and you're gonna help out the environment, and it's a cool product, and you don't have to pay anything up front, right? That was like the main thing that I was pitching, and like a few hours in, I remember looking into the sky, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, God, like, I mean, if you have me here, it's for a reason, like, but honestly, I'm having one of the toughest time in my life. Like, it's like I need your help. I need you to back me up. Like, please, like, I'm struggling. Like, I'm knocking doors. Like, I'm getting a bunch of rejections. This is not the sexiest job, and this is not what I dreamed of. But if you have me here, there's a reason why you have me here. And I just remember looking up, and I just smiled, and I said, you know what? It takes, I'm sure it takes like a couple, at least 100, doors for me to get an actual sale. And I was like, you know what? And I just smiled, and I just kept on going. And yeah, little that, I set up 2 appointments, so I was really excited. It was getting a little dark, and then it ended up to be my first sale, within the company. And that just, we started picking up, I started gathering like some good momentum. And after that, we just kept at it. And but yeah, I remember that was a really, really tough day as far as like, making sure that I push forward towards the solar cells.
Can you remember any of the mean people that you met? Like, if you're able to repeat what someone might have said to you when you knocked on their door that maybe wasn't too kind.
No, of course, yeah. I remember this one particular day when I went all day. Like, I started knocking in the morning and all the way till night, and it was during the summertime as well. And I had no answers. People just shutting their doors, and I remember I had flyers, and I was one of my last doors before the sun was coming down. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna smile. I'm just gonna have a good time because I'm already having a really rough time, right? So I'm gonna decide to just have a good attitude, And it's like I'm just gonna whatever, like who cares, right? And I was walking to this older gentleman, and I was like, hey, how's it going, man? I hope you're having a good day. What are you doing? Like, are you mowing your lawn? I think he was like doing something in his lawn. So it's like, hey, man, I just want to give you this information. It's like, get the fuck out of my lawn. Like, it's like, yeah, I don't want anything that you're selling me. And he just started going at me, and I was like, whoa, I was like extremely shocked. I was like, hey man, like I'm just trying to have a good attitude. And I remember like getting like, I got a little upset because I was like, oh man, I can only take so much, And I was like, hey, 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 hey. And I just kind of paused. I was like, I gotta keep it cool. But it's like, hey, I just told him, hey man, like, look, I'm just trying to help you out. And all I'm doing, man, is I'm just trying to help you. Like, what I'm doing is I'm just trying to cut your electricity bills in half. And this is what I get paid for, bro. Like, I don't love exactly what I'm doing, but hey, that's what I get paid for, man. That's what I do for a living. So, and I just looked at him in the eyes, like, dude, like, honestly, I've been having a rough day, and I'm just trying to be nice. I'm not trying to be aggressive with you. I'm not trying to be pushy, And then after that, he just calmed, and he was pretty calm. He was like, so you know what, man, I apologize. Like, he's like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm just having a rough day. And I know you're a nice guy. I was like, no, no, okay, man, my pleasure. Like, if you ever need me, like, feel free to call me. But I remember that was like one of the toughest moments because I was like this close to kind of snap because I was like, man, like I just been getting hammered and hammered like all day long, at 110, 20 degrees. So that was a tough one, extremely tough one.
How long were you knocking doors for?
I was knocking doors. We knocked. I mean, the last time I actually knocked doors was probably like I would say like 9 months. Like, it hasn't even. I still, so I've been doing it for quite a bit. I would say a good 7 years. Obviously, when I was a sales rep, that's all I did, right? When I was just doing sales, and then I was a sales manager, so I had a lot of referrals, and then I was kind of like a hybrid because I had a lot of referrals, and I was like door knocking for like 3-4 hours, and that's all I did, 3 hours, 4 hours, because I had a bunch of referrals, and then I would train some guys for the small period of time, and then I started scaling the business, and I started my own business. So I was still running teams, and I would knock for like 2 hours a day. That was kind of like my average. So obviously, as I started scaling the business and I started, promoting myself, right? The time on the doors became a little bit slimmer, but I did it, for almost like 7 years.
Bet you got in some good shape knocking on doors for 7 years, all those steps.
Absolutely, man. Like it wasn't easy, but it was a fun experience. I think it's one of the best training experience that I ever gotten. And it's like the Harvard of sales, I would say.
Yeah, knocking on doors is tough because you're dealing with all sorts of people. I mean, very rarely anyone knocks on the doors. I couldn't even tell you the last time, like even like Girl Scouts knocked on my doors to sell cookies. So like knocking doors is definitely not been very conventional method to making sales. So that's super cool. You stuck with it, and you just were knocking doors. You said 9 months ago, so you're not even been out of the knocking the doors for too long. So you were knocking doors. Seems like you were doing pretty well. At what point were you knocking doors? You're like, man, I got to start my own thing.
I was 2 years within the business, so I was already in the industry. I'm sorry, I was already running teams. I was already training people. I was going on the field. I was teaching people how to close, and and then I used to work for Solar City, and then I started working for a smaller company temporarily because I remember,
Solar
I come from
City, Elon. Is that Elon?
Elon Musk, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did that company go bankrupt? Did they go bankrupt? Or are they still around?
They were bought off by Tesla. So they're Tesla now.
Bought them.
Yeah, no, so they're still around. Yeah, Tesla. So everybody knows Tesla. Yeah. So I worked with them for a year and a half, and then once they were bought off from Solar City was bought off from Tesla, and there were some changes, and I lived in a smaller city, which is Yuma, Arizona. So Tesla's more like on the bigger cities, right? Like LA, Phoenix, you name it, Miami, and kind of like on the bigger cities. They're not really interested on the smaller cities because that's where they mostly do business at, which is a bigger city. So I seen this coming, and then I start off working with a smaller company. And I said, hey, look, man, I'm going to start working with you, but just to let you know, I'm going to start my own company because, my grandpa was an entrepreneur. My mom was an entrepreneur. So it was already like kind of engraved in me. I already had a goal to one day have a business since I was like probably like 19, 20 years old. So that's something that I was already working for. And so, I was just straightforward. It's like, hey, man, this is what I want to accomplish. This is what I want to do. And then I was 6 months in, and that's within the second company. And that's where I decided, you know what, I'm going to open up my own company. And I met, one of the largest installers in the nation, and we partner up. We decided to, join forces, and little by little, that's where I started. But I already had and that's what I think one of the things that definitely did help us out was that I mastered the sales myself, and then I mastered the art of like teaching other people, and then building teams. And then after that, that's when we pulled the trigger and we went all in with Renewable Power USA.
Mm-hmm. So how does it feel to you to go from knocking doors, 120-degree weather, to running your own company and eventually even being featured in Forbes?
Honestly, I mean, I don't even believe it. So to me, it's like whatever. I mean, this is not even like really real, right? Like I still, I'm still the same person, right? Like I love to work, I love to help people, and I'm proud of it because my like being featured in Forbes and being part of the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies. I do it mostly for my people, right? For the people that work with me, for my customers, right? And I think that's the biggest reward. It's not like something that, of course, I'm proud of it. Like I'm not gonna say I don't like, and I'm really proud of it, but it's not it's not something that I do it just because like it feels good, right? It's like ultimately it's like I want to show my customer that we're there, we will be here. I want to show my employees, my contractors, hey, we're pushing big and we're hitting big goals, and this is so you guys could feel comfortable with the brand and with what we're doing.
It's cool stuff. So, I mean, how many people are working for you now? You went from the lonely doorman to how many people now?
Yeah, we last year we onboarded 79 contractors, and we are at 8 employees.
8 employees,
Yeah.
79
Mhm.
contractors. And the 79 contractors, would you consider that like your sales force? Is that the sales force? And the employees are more like the operators of the company?
Yes, it's a finance marketing team. We have a finance marketing team, operations, and sales leadership, and then we have the sales force.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
And now that solar has hit the mainstream, it seems like about 5 years ago, everyone was starting to get into real estate when Mr. Grant Cardone started getting real popular. Everyone's again the multifamily now. Like solar is the new hot thing. Like, where do you see solar going now that it has entered? Like, you're just driving down the road, you'll see solar, 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 solar.
Yes, that's a really good question. So where we visualize solar is like it's just growing, right? Like as far as like the whole United States and in the world, right? There's the Paris Act that they signed, Cleaner Act, that the whole world signed, right? And they committed um, to produce energy through renewable sources. So it's a big hype, right? It's a big thing that everybody is involved with it, and everybody wants to be part of it and be within the industry, right? So what I see is more and more companies are developing, and even the companies that are currently at the moment, they're collaborating, they're buying companies. And I was on a podcast at SolarCon, and I was just talking about I don't think like the apples of solar has been created just yet, right? So there's so much more room and growth for it, as far as business goes, right? But as far as product goes, obviously there's a lot of innovation that's coming up, right? There is batteries that are being tons of batteries that are being manufactured. They're getting ready to provide the customer with more of a off-grid systems, and more affordable. They're making things a little bit more affordable, and they're trying to make customers more independent with the electricity. So a lot of cool stuff are going on as far as the tech goes, and business as well. Like there's tons of growth, and there is a lot of opportunities within the industry. So
Yeah. So I'm like curious, like you have the solar panels, you're putting them on people's houses. I've even seen solar fields, like just fields of solar panels, like out in the middle of nowhere. So like other than just solar panels, to someone who may not be like super familiar about the industry, what else is solar doing other than just like the panel you have behind you? That is a panel, right?
yes, yeah, that's actually one of the panels. Yeah, that's we use it as a board here and there. Sometimes we create tables to recycle them. But other than creating electricity, that was your question, right? Like other than creating
Yeah, like
electricity.
what else is something that may be like a little bit unorthodox that like people don't know about solar and the solar industry other than just like people knocking on my door and they want to sell me a system.
Yeah, well, honestly, is like it's a huge technology technology change, and we're eliminating a lot of the ways that people are used to consuming electricity.
Mm,
Um, and the easiest way that I explain, like our guys and our customers, is like we're so used to just relying on the grid, right? Like just relying on them, and just like, yeah, I don't know how, I'm just consuming electricity, I don't care, I'm just paying, and I'm just renting the power, right? And but little that everybody knows, like most likely everybody will eventually have their own solar system, because it just makes sense. It just makes sense for you to have your own power plant, and produce your own electricity, and even store your own electricity, right, through a battery, because the as the year goes by and we analyze, like the new generation, there's a lot more consumption of electricity, right? Like, there's like, a bunch of tablets, there's like, you name it, electrical cars, like that are, just massively will, need electricity. So, we all want to be in a place where we have a better peace of mind, and we at least produce some of this electricity. That way we don't have to rely on the grid and go through maybe a drought of energy, right? So I think that's something that people are not really aware of, where it's like, yeah, I need solar, and I want to do it now because I wouldn't want to be part of, a potential drought, which we are seeing in California. Like, people get sometimes text and say like, shut down your power, or else there's going to be a shutdown, like, because you'll be without electricity, because there's so much people consuming electricity that the utility can't provide all this demand. So that's a huge one, and I think people just don't have that information. Not the common homeowner doesn't really understand that just yet, or hasn't gotten that information. That's what we're doing, right? We're trying to educate everybody as much as we can.
Are like home builders going to start like, just building new houses with solar on them? Like, I move into a new house, it's already solar ready to go. Is that like the direction we're going?
In California, there's a law that passed that if there's new construction, you have to have solar.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yep. So that's gonna be spreading around the country. We don't know for a fact, right? But most likely, California is one of the first states that try out things, and then people copy it. It's kind of like its own country.
Country of California. And like the utility companies, like what's going to happen to our utility companies with all the solar? Has that been something that you've like learned about at all?
Yeah, I remember, when was it, like 5 years ago? We went to Solar Power International. It's called SPI, which is really big around the world, in California. And then PG&E was there, which is one of the utilities from California, San Diego. And then obviously there was a long conversation where they were speaking about, how solar is impacting, and like, some of the proper ways to do business in solar, and things like that. And I'm never going to forget what it came out of even their mouth. I remember it was like the director, I don't remember, but it was definitely somebody higher up within the chain of command of this company. And they said, to be honest with you guys, in the future, we will only be there as a backup. Like, everybody will have solar, and if you want to capitalize on this industry, make sure you guys do business right. Make sure you guys do well for the customer, and take care of, pretty much your people, because that's what the future is going to be looking like. Like, they will be just there just in case you run out of juice. Let's say your solar power produces a certain amount of electricity, and then you're consuming more than what you're used to, then they'll kick in. If not, then they won't give you any power, right? So that's what, even it came from the utility, it came from them, from the people that are been providing electricity for years.
Right. So what you're saying is the solar industry is going to continue to grow, and the biggest opportunity for like people like you and me is when the batteries can start to store essentially more and more juice. And basically, like sunlight that maybe my solar panel gets in July could be stored for the energy that I'm going to consume in the winter months. Is that like the next step?
Well, what the batteries do, it all depends how much battery you store. You can literally have like enough storage where you really don't rely, on the grid. But it just depends of how much electricity you're actually consuming, and if you're keeping track of it, right? Which is, we all do it nowadays. Some people say, oh, that sounds a little bit too complicated. But if you really think about it, like Apple Watch even tracks your workouts, your steps, and all this stuff, right? And it's a simple way to just open up your app, and you'll be able to track how much, juice you have, how much you've been using, and some of your habits. But there is going to be those technology that will really get you off the grid, and have that type of lifestyle.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Because I mean, that's what's going on with like the Tesla batteries is people are like, well, how far of a charge can you actually get on one of these things? Now they're getting like 340, 350 for a charge, which is pretty good distance. And I guess in the beginning of solar, like, the technology wasn't there, but as the technology has progressed, so has the efficiency of everything with these panels, so that people can be cleaner, get off the grid, save money, and create a win-win for everyone involved.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The I think the biggest thing that's going to revolutionize the industry, it's just the batteries, the technology and the batteries, and the energy backup that they're going to provide.
Yeah.
Yeah, before it was just like a small like backup that you will have, kind of like a car battery. Some people will use them, and it will be you'll be able to power like small things. But now you could actually, power like a good percentage of your home, and then the more you store, then potentially you could power even the whole home. And um and and actually, I've been in off-grid homes where it's all powered through solar and batteries. Obviously, the consumption of electricity is really minimal, right? Like you don't have an AC running, or you don't have all this stuff, right? But it's happening nowadays. But in the future, the average household could potentially run off just their system.
Yeah, this like reminds me of like during the 90s is the problem with like computers is storing all of your documents, all of your pictures. Like storage was very, very expensive. And as the
Yeah,
storage got better, you know, we were able to
yeah,
now have phones with like 128 gigabytes versus like, you might get a couple megabytes like back in the day. So that seems like where the solar industry is comparison to like where computers were about 20, 30 years ago. So that's the way
yeah.
I see it.
No, yeah, like you say, like it's pretty similar, because the more the technology evolves, the more capacity you have to store, and you have enough juice in there to literally power like pretty much everything that you need. A lot of like cabins, or like things they can't reach the grid, like they run all based through solar and battery. So it's already happening, but for the average household, like the technology is still there. It's gonna evolve, and it's gonna get a lot better, but it's definitely happening for sure.
Yeah, so I mean that's all about solar. Now let's like change gears a little bit to talk about the business
Yeah,
side of things. Before we hopped on, you mentioned you have some exciting things happening business wise. Let's learn about that a little bit.
yeah, of course. We've been working on this for a year and a half, and so it's been we're excited. We've been announcing it in our Instagrams and our Facebook and all the platforms, LinkedIn and everywhere, because we're really excited. Like we're going on a decade of on doing solar and being part of the industry, and we were excited to share a lot of the things that has helped us scale the business, helped us in sales, helped us in branding, helped us in to get us where we need to get, where we're at the moment. And we've seen a lot of struggles within the industry, and a lot of people sending us messages that they want to be part of the growth, they want to be part of their companies. So we decided to launch a solar university where they could purchase a university, and they could have a lot of this information for them, and they could become a sales rep, or they could even build a team, or they could even go as far as building their own company. And we're excited about it. Honestly, it's something that we did, and part of it is because we want to give back as well. We've been grateful enough to do pretty well ourselves, as far as solar industry and business wise and profits. So that's some of the ways that we want to give back to to the people that are in the solar industry. And because, well, I also understand it's not easy, especially solar is not as new as it used to be, but it's still like, if people are still doing a lot of door to door, is because there's still a lot of education that needs to be put out there. And there's you definitely have to have those sit downs with the customer. We still need to reach the people that don't know this information. And we have a lot of cool techniques that's going to help them scale and have a lot of sales, have a lot of good profits, and ways that they could really take care of the customer and educate them. So we're excited for that.
So anyone looking to get into solar, where do you want them to go?
And they could Google my name, Jimmy Esparza, and they'll find a lot of information of us, the company, myself. Renewable Power USA. We have the website renewablepowerusa.com, and they could go on the website and they could click one of the links that's going to take them to the training university. But our favorite and what I recommend everybody to go to, it's our Instagram, and there'll be the link on my bio, so you'll see my picture, and then you'll see some of the things that I do, and then it's going to be a link right there, and then you click on it, and they'll be able to find the university, and they can register for it. We're doing a pre-order sale, so it's going to be a little more affordable now than later on.
And that's for the university.
100%.
Gotcha. So anyone that wants to get into the solar game and get their bachelor's of science in solar, hit up Jimmy. And that's Esparza, E as in Echo, S as in Sierra, P as in Papa, A as in Alpha, R as in Romeo, Z in Zulu, A as in Alpha. So Google him. He's the first choice. So he's up there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So like, what's next for Jimmy and Renewable Power USA? Other than the university, other than educating people, like, what's the next challenge other than the first challenge of knocking on doors in 120-degree heat in Arizona?
I think the next challenge for us is just scaling in different states and different cities where we want to go to, and still keeping that service that we believe in, that service that's been able to help us out, and the quality of equipment that we have provided with the customers. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges. The more we grow, the more people are within our company, and the more we scale. Yeah, we want to make sure that that's tight, right, and that everybody that's part of the organization, it's in line with our core values, in line with the way that we do business, and in line with the brand, because it's a model that works, right? It's a model that works, and it's a model that that's a modern way of doing business as well, the modern way of doing sales, and that's what a lot of people are looking for. And I want to make sure that people that work with us and that are part of what we do, that are aligned with what we're doing. And obviously, when we started from scratch, the goal was to be in Forbes and be in Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies, which it was insane. It was like mind blowing to even hit those goals, right? But thank God we were able to hit it. And now, like, we said, huge goal, and we definitely want to see how close we could get to Fortune 500 companies. And I think that's a challenge. It's a little, it's a little shaky, but at the end of the day, it's like we go back and we think about it. It's like, hey, we once dreamed about being in Forbes and being in 5,000 fastest growing companies, and it happened. So it's the same way now, right? Like, obviously, it's going to be a lot of work, a lot of dedication, a lot of work from our team, for our executive team and from our leaders. Like, there's going to be a lot more not necessarily requirements, but there's going to be more effort from them, right? But that's something that I think is going to be a huge challenge, but we're up for it, and we're excited for it.
Yeah, because as you're growing a company, success can come really fast. Like, it's easy to go from making no money to like, oh man, I made $10,000 this month. I made $5,000 this month. I made, $15,000 this month. Before you know it, you went from making no money to making 100,000, 200,000, 400,000. But now you're going through the struggle of scaling a company through people, and you're in an industry where people want to get rich. So how are you going to make sure you keep those people away? Because, one bad person can just kill the morale of a team or kill the morale of like an organization. It's like super crazy how just like one bad apple can ruin it for everyone.
100%. And I think there's nothing wrong with wanting to have financial wealth, right? And saying like, I want to become rich. And I think that's, if somebody has a goal like that, I think it's perfect. But there's one of the things that I ask whenever I see, someone that's really motivated, wants to make a lot of money, wants to get rich, it's like, yeah, It's possible. You could do it. There's a lot of people that have been able to do it. But do you want to have it temporarily, or you want to be sustainable and you want to keep that wealth sustainable, right? So, some of the ways that we teach, and some of the things, some of the decisions that we even make, and I make myself for the company, is where we will, have that growth and have that, and my people have that wealth. But we got to do it the sustainable way, which is taking care of our client, making sure that you are keeping yourself educated, that you are getting ready for the next move, that you are taking care of the people that are working around with us. There is a way, but you want to do it the right way, right, in the sustainable way. And I think that's some of the conversations that we have. And I don't kill anybody's dreams. Like, yeah, you could do it, but it does take some massive amount of action, and it all starts by you serving. The more people you serve, the more income you get. So if people are just like, no, I'm gonna take advantage, and I'm just gonna make quick money, and I'm just gonna, make the most now, then that's where, like, yeah, you'll be good for a moment, but then 6 months from now, like, you you'll be coming down. And I've seen that over and over in this industry. But some people have different goals and different principles.
Yeah, so I mean, like, we all see the people who are cutting corners, and it's hard when you're not cutting corners and you see people doing better than you, but you realize, like, I got the long game in mind. I'm focusing on the future. I'm not worried about what everyone's doing. Like, I don't care if, like, I'm in the gym working hard and I see other people taking things so that they grow faster, but I'm not growing as fast. And then 5, 10, 15 years down the line, you look back and you're like, man, like, I left all those people in the dust. What would you say, Jimmy, separated you from all those people that were potentially doing better than you for a moment, but now you're like, all right, I'm winning this game?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. And I think I love that, the way that you put this question, because it does happen a lot, right? Especially within this days nowadays, right? And to me, it was like, it's about the goal that I have, right? Like, I have a personal goal. I have a big goal that we want to accomplish as a company. And that's my lane, right? And that's where I know I'm heading towards, right? And do I put myself deadlines to hit those goals? Yes, I do. And do I hit it every single time? No, I don't. But one of the things that I do is I just look back and say, okay, Jimmy, you did not hit this goal that you wanted to accomplish, right? But where are you at, right? Like, what has happened, like, let's say during this year. Let's look at you as a person. Have you become somebody that, you're more mature? You were able to go through hard challenges. Do you have some growth? Yes, personally, yes, I did have some growth. What about your income? Were you able to increase your income? Yeah, we actually did have more revenue. We did have more, not the same way that I wanted, or like I seen other people maybe doing it. But at the end of the day, I evaluate that year, or those 2 years, or whatever it is that you want to evaluate yourself, and I say, and I'm grateful for them, and I'm like, hey, there is growth, and this is the way that I'm growing. It could, maybe these guys that are, like you say, like adding steroids to their companies, getting debt, getting all this stuff, getting a bunch of partners in their business, and doing all this other stuff because they want it now, 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 and I want to look cool, and I want to be big, and and it's like, that's not the way that I want to do it. I want to do it in a sustainable way. And I just have those conversations with myself, and I evaluate it, and I say, hey, I give myself a little pat in the back, say, hey, you had 50% growth, Jimmy. Like, maybe you didn't have freaking 400% growth, but you had 50% growth. Things are moving. Should a pat in the back, keep on working, keep on pushing, and eventually you'll get there, right? And it will happen. And I just analyze some of the other goals that I have accomplished that were insane, and they were crazy at the moment when I set them. And it did probably take me 2, 3 years, 4 years to do it, but we got there. And I still, the most important thing to me is I still have my family, my wife, my kids, and my parents, my brothers, and and the rest. And I try to have the people that I really care about around me. And so far it hasn't been bad. And I think a lot of people are, sometimes I'm grateful and say, like, oh, well, I hit this huge goal, or this guy's doing this and doing that. And it's like, yeah, but you really don't know, exactly what's going on there, right? So I think just being grateful for where you're at, and I'm sure if you really dig in, you'll find something positive and some growth that happened, and yeah, and you'll feel a lot more comfortable and secure and confident about what you're doing.
Yeah, I had a conversation with an author the other day, and I was chatting with him about like, keeping a good mindset, making sure you're growing your company. And I never heard this phrase before, but he says, Josh, did you know you have 7 lean years and there's 7 fat years? So you have to go through those 7 lean years before you get to those 7 fat years. And I was like, never heard like that before, but looks like my 7 lean years are almost up. So I hope that you're right. Now that you're in your fat years, how are you going to make sure that rather than chasing a 500% return, some people want the hot stock, like, hey, I want to invest it today and I want it to go up 500% next week, versus having your company be more like a weighing machine in the long run, where you get reasonable rates of return. 6% growth, to someone might say, why do you want 6% growth? Well, if you get 6% growth over 20, 30 years of a larger pie, then that is what you want because of the power of compounding of all the work that you've done.
Yeah. So the question was, what was exactly the question? Sorry.
Yeah. So like, rather than chasing like, hey, let's triple our income this month. Let's go hard. I don't care what it takes, versus saying like, hey, let's make sure this is sustainable and reasonable so that this company can last 50, 60, 70, 100, 200 years.
Yeah. So I guess it all depends on it starts with your personal goal, right? Like it starts with you as a business owner. Like what do you really want? Why are you doing this for, right? Are you doing it, in the beginning, to me, I wanted to have more income for my family, and I want to have more freedom for them, right? And I wanted to have options when it comes to, where I live, having a little bit more quality of life, right? So to me, it was like, I need to make this money, and it's not just for me, but it's just for me to provide a better quality of life for my family. And wherever I brought people on board, I will talk to them about, what do you want to accomplish? It's like, oh, this is what I want. Okay, cool. So then we set up a game plan, and we worked towards that, right? Where it's like, first, let's look at what we want to accomplish and what we're really here for, right? Because at the end, we all have to provide, right, to our family, and we all have to make money. But then let's do it in a way where we really impact and help people. And that's why, I love solar, because it's like we help people save, we help them, we help the environment, we do a lot of noble cause, a lot of things. So to really answer your question is like, something that I really push myself is I have to have 50% minimum. I say 100% growth every single year, right? I shoot for 100%, and then and thank God we always end up like a 80 or 50% growth like every single year. So it's like, I think you still want to push as far as you can and make sure that the growth, it's something that you want to accomplish and is helping and serving people that are working around you. Because if it's not, then that's when you got to make decisions like, hey, yeah, maybe this industry, or maybe what I'm doing, or maybe I have too much overhead, or I have too much stuff that maybe I really don't need, and maybe I need a downside and over, so we could have a bigger increase on some of the things that we're doing. So that's the way that I look at it. At the end of the day, we want to have that growth, because we want to have the revenue and profit, because we want to give more quality to the customer. We want to give more opportunities to other people. So I think it's important to push for 50 to 100% every single year.
Boom. If I had a button like Bradley does on his podcast, I hit the bomb. I don't have the bomb yet. We're just getting started here, but on that note, let's bring it to a close. So if you want to find Jimmy, find him on Google, hit him up on Instagram. It's just Jimmy Esparza, Espraza. Want to get into the solar game? He's got the university. Get your bachelor's of science, bachelor of arts in solar, and appreciate had Jimmy on the Unconventional Money Moves podcast. We'll see everyone next time. Thanks for coming on, Jimmy.
No, thank you, Josh. Appreciate it, man, very much. Thank you for having me in this show, and see you guys soon.